What's up, wildlings? Colin here, the Wild CEO, out on the wild farm, soon to be farm, more of just a homestead right now. Today's video is all about why you've been duped about meat, right? Especially clean, organic, sustainable, small, family farm produced, with respect meat, and particularly ruminant meats, so red meats typically. You've been lied to. We've all been lied to. They're still lying to people in the masses. And then we had this whole plant-based dogma and agenda that's coming through that has warped the narrative to be plants are good, meat is bad. Well, today's video, I'm going to rant through that a little bit. I'm going to give you some resources that you can look into yourself if you really, really want to understand this and go deep into it. And again, this is not to bash plant-based. There are a lot of plants that can fit in a healthy diet, and I consume them myself. But the idea that your diet should be a bulk of plants and somehow you're going to be healthier because of it is not true. In fact, it's the reverse. And as with all things that are common knowledge, they are typically 100% wrong. It's weird how that is. Most of the things that society or the government promotes or people accept as truth is literally the opposite of the case. When it comes to meat and nutrition, there is a lot of misinformation out there. And so today's video is just about meat particularly, and why you shouldn't be afraid of it, why you should try to source really good meats, of course, but also why meat should be the bulk of your diet. Really clean animal products should be the bulk of every human's diet because it's the optimal human food. Let's get to it. Okay, so first things first. There's a whole story here. There's a huge story for politics and a doctor back in the 60s named Ancestral. If you really want to dig into that, I would highly recommend going and reading some of Gary Taubes' work. He's got multiple books out on it. Good Calories, Bad Calories is one of the primary ones. And he goes into why we believe what we believe today, why there's so much scientific dogma and nonsense around it, and how the government got involved, with Eisenhower and Ancestral and all these things that happened back in the, I would say, 50s, 60s, and 70s, right? And that really took off in the 80s and 90s with the whole, it's all about calories, right? Low fat, don't eat your egg yolks, and all that scaremongering that has literally resulted in the obesity epidemic we have today. And then now we have pharmaceutical companies and food manufacturers that fund almost all of the research that's done for nutrition science. And that's another thing. You hear about nutrition science. Well, that entire field of research is about making food more shelf stable, more palatable, better tasting, easier to make, etc. It has nothing to do with human health and nutrition whatsoever. Yet you see a lot of these studies are cited by the news, by the media, by certain pundits, etc. Sensationalist headlines, it's such garbage. But on that point, there's never been one controlled for study ever done, actually controlled for, been peer reviewed, that's been executed in a way to correlate consuming meat to any kind of negative health consequence. There's not one. So what do? What is all this research they're talking about? Why do so many scientists agree? It's called epidemiological research. And it's basically research done through polls. Let me say that again. Research done through polling, usually sending someone a piece of paper in the mail and saying, fill these out. How many cups of ribs have you eaten? How many this? How many times a day this, that, whatever? And they ask you to do this for maybe 6 months, a year, whatever. And then they take that data. And then maybe they follow up and they'll ask you another set of questions. And maybe they'll even, if they go a little bit deeper, they'll actually look at health records. I don't even know if they can even do that. It's really strange how this has even been labeled as research. But you take this epidemiological, which is just polls, research, and they've been able to take these correlations. They just pick them out, This group might have shown that they have a higher increase for cancer, and they said they ate 2 cups of ribs a week for the past year, or some nonsense like that. And that is the extent of the research that has been used with cherry-picking publishing, cherry-picking data, research that was even funded by food companies that weren't going to show the outcome the food manufacturers wanted, were usually killed off, right? And you don't ever hear about that getting published. The entire body of research that's done that's connected saturated fat to heart disease, or eating red meat to heart disease, or high cholesterol, or even salt. Salt's another one. None of this has been ever executed through a controlled research study, because it would probably be too expensive. You'd have to literally lock humans up like rats in a cage for a couple years and then feed them and control their exercise and control for everything to get the result, to get an accurate result of what may or may not have happened, right? Correlation-based research, observational research does not prove causation. It does not prove 1 + 1 = 2. It simply says this group of people did these things, right? And let's look at that bucket. And then this was the percentage of people that got cancer, heart disease, or whatever. Doesn't account for smoking, doesn't account for alcohol use, doesn't account for exercise or lack thereof, etc. There's not one published study that has been controlled for to show this. So anyone that tries throwing research at you, You can simply ask them to show me the controlled research, and then ask them what research they're citing and say, oh, well, this is all epidemiological research, which is basically a bunch of polls sent to people in the mail. It's not research. It shouldn't be called research, okay? So that's the big one. That's the big one. There is no actual evidence to point through research that meat does any of these bad things that scientists and news outlets and, even certain doctors now recommend. It's a little bit cold out here. I live in Texas, and I really cannot wait for it to get hot again because I'm just over it. Number 2 here is there is a ton of data. Maybe don't call it research. Maybe call it research. Maybe not scientifically published and peer-reviewed research. For example, myself, my family, clients I've trained, friends and family I've observed over the years, and the thousands, at this point, millions of case studies of people executing these in their own life and getting favorable results. You can look at the Whole30, paleo diet, people that are doing keto, even South Beach Atkins to an extent. And you can take a lot of the first principles of all those diets, which most of them get rid of processed foods, get rid of grains and beans, lentils, very carb-heavy things, are typically lower carb, are moderate, protein, depending on, and then are usually moderate to high fat. Then you look at our ancestral past, and you see how that is how most hunter-gatherers lived in the wild based on their environment for hundreds of thousands of years. There's only a couple hunter-gatherers that they call, the paradox, like the Kitavans paradox, for example, or the Okinawa paradox, where they might eat higher carb. Kitavans ate something like 60 to 70% of their calories from a yam-like sweet potato. But guess what? The rest of their food was real, close to nature, fish, coconut, fruit, etc. Someone like the Inuit, the Eskimos, eat almost 99% of their calories from fat and protein from animal products, and eat a little bit of seaweed here and there. They both do great. There's both no instance of like cavities or heart disease or anything like that. And they both are peoples that survived based on their environment. One was an island people that was tropical, and one was in the northern harsh climate where you can literally eat polar bears and moose and seals and whale and things like that, where there were no vegetables or fruits around. So we have all this data. I would even say it's research. I would say it's paleontology, it's ancestral biology, it's evolutionary biology, psychology, all these different branches of, some would call them soft sciences. At this point, I think we have a really good amount of data and research to point us into where we should be looking for nutrition, which is going to be based on how humans survive in the wild. So if I walk out in these woods right here and I have to survive, the thing I'm going to look for the most is an animal because of the calories, and I'm going to eat every bit of the animal. Organs, brains, everything, marrow, and it's going to be a ton of fat, it's going to be a ton of protein, and it's going to be almost no carbohydrates. You cannot go in the wild and survive off of carbohydrates. It's impossible. Even a culture like the Kitavans, which got 60 to 70% of their calories from a yam-like sweet potato, worked in groups, harvesting, pulling up, digging up, processing, cooking long periods of time. That required a lot of labor. And if you weren't able to work together and also have the techniques to know what you were doing, you would not be able to get a net positive amount of calories out of that. You would expend more calories than you could consume. Whereas catching any animal whatsoever is always going to give you a boatload of calories. So that's number 2. All right, number 3, to wrap this video up, keep it nice, short, and sweet. Keep in mind, this video should lead you to other people and other books and articles and looking for information to confirm, or if you're trying to disconfirm what I'm saying right now. Keep in mind, if you're trying to disconfirm what I'm saying right now, you need to go look at the sources that are talking about the promotion of these ideas, because that's where you're going to find the best information. If you're going to try to disconfirm why meat is not good for you, you can go to the vegan sources and all these other places, and you'll find plenty of people that sound convincing and that will try to point to studies, and they'll cherry pick data and they'll do all these things to make it seem like I don't know what I'm talking about. But the reality is, the people that actually look at the data, that actually go into the things unbiased, are finding the real information. So keep that in mind. I would recommend Ken Berry. I would recommend the channel What I've Learned. That's a great channel. He does a really good job. I would recommend looking into Mark Sisson. Look at Impact Theory. He's got some good guests on there. Look at the Whole30 and the founders of Whole30. I forgot her name. Jessica Hartwig or Melissa Hartwig, I think. Look into Rob Wolf. Look into the carnivore guy, Paul Saladino, who was on the Ancestral Mind podcast. You can actually go find that over at theancestralmind.com. Go check out Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson's daughter, who was also on the Ancestral Mind podcast. She's doing a Lion diet, which is basically straight meat and salt because she has a major autoimmune issue. And if she eats any plants, it destroys her health, right? So it's really fascinating when we get into that with her on that show. There's a lot of resources. I'll try to link some below. Okay, you can obviously go and Google YouTube. You can find these people. All right, they're doing very good work, and I highly recommend, even if you're not fully buying into what I'm saying right now, you at least will expand your awareness of what's possible. Even if you don't want to eat animals, you should at least understand the ethics around those that do, the biology and how eating animals affects human biology, right? The history of it, all these things, okay? So number 3 is, this is getting a lot of attention lately too. This is what the whole carnivore movement is around. Plants have natural defense mechanisms inside their structure that they use to thwart predators. Gluten's an example of this. You see the whole gluten-free fad? Well, that is a protein that's found in certain grain products that attacks the gut, causes leaky gut, causes all these autoimmune issues and other things. And it is one of these natural plant pesticides. There's lectins. There's even phytonutrients, which some people are like, get your greens, get your phytonutrients. Well, most of those compounds are the plants creating these compounds to kill insects and other small bugs that would eat the plant. Every species in nature has been able to survive to today, and they've done that by having certain defense mechanisms. There are some examples of some of these foods, like sulforaphane in broccoli, for example, which Dr. Rhonda Patrick, she's been promoting because she sees some of the health benefits. Well, it is a toxin. It is a plant defense toxin that may provide some hormetic effect to humans, meaning it might be like a beneficial stress. The problem is the load and the amount. And the things that are most glaring are usually grains and lectins and phytates, things like that. Like you soak nuts to remove those in beans and lentils. These things are usually really, really harsh, and they have a very severe effect. And for some people that have autoimmune issues, have a like life-threatening effect or a major health implications, right? But they do affect all of us to some extent. The problem is most people have been eating these things for so long, and they've been dealing with headaches and leaky gut and not regular bowel movements and all these issues that they've been dealing with for years that they're just trained to believe that's normal. Well, when you go off those foods and you feel amazing, you realize that is not normal. And then you change your baseline of what you think is normal or not normal. So the third thing is most of these beneficial compounds, most of what you think is like a green leafy vegetable, that's great for me, is full of things that are actually toxins. Now, you got to get into the dose, how much. Some of them might have a hormetic effect, so some of them might have a little bit of benefit. But keep in mind, these things that we're thought to believe are the best are actually attacking our biology one way or the other. And so there's even a case to be made for all leafy greens for the most part, not even being, and I should say just leafy greens. There's a lot of vegetables and legumes and grains, things like that. Even nuts and seeds to an extent, certain ones. There's a case to be made that these foods attack human biology. And as one hunter-gatherer proclaimed when he was asked by an anthropologist, he said, this is what he said, "We will eat plants when there's not real food available." Think about that. And that would probably be the default for most hunter-gatherers. They would always default to animal products and to fat and to protein as being the most sought-after foods because they have the most nutrition and the most calories. And whereas animals have defense mechanisms by hiding, by attacking, by claws, by teeth, plants have defense mechanism inside of their biology because they can't run away. Think about that for a second. That is a really fascinating thing that kind of ties all these ideas together. Now, again, I'm going to keep this video short. There's going to be lots and lots of other videos and reading and articles and books and things that you can get into if you're really interested in this. I highly recommend you do that. And if you were to ask me what my diet is right now, well, it's been more of a carnivore-based diet. It really has. I use certain superfoods and I use certain supplements to supplement my eating. I look at the base of my diet as being a red meat-based or fatty fish-based diet. Obviously, more organ meat. I snack on dried beef heart, things like that. And that is where I get the bulk of my nutrition from. And it's high fat, it's moderate to high protein, and it's very, very low carb. And I feel amazing doing it. And since we moved out here, you know, been out here about a month. I'm already literally leaning up. I'm going to aim for about a 6 to 7% body fat. I'm trying to get really, really lean right now and then seeing where I can maybe bulk and whatnot. So I'll be for sure tracking my before and afters with this style of eating. I've lent more to carnivore, I've noticed, because I just crave it more. And I like vegetables sometimes. I mean, I like vegetables. Don't get me wrong. I like vegetables. I love vegetables in some cases. But I don't find the pressure to have to eat them. If I have some, and it sounds good, I'm going to eat it, put some butter, put some salt on, great. If I don't have it, I'm not going to make a big deal about it, and I'm going to eat my protein and my fat and my animal products, and I'll be good to go. All right, so make sure you like and subscribe, follow along. I'm also doing a daily vlog so you can kind of see what I'm eating, and you'll see how I'm not 100% a carnivore at all by any means. I mix things up. I have certain strategies when I'm eating out and whatnot, and cooking at home. And so hit that bell button. You get all those updates. Right now, I'm literally tracking every single day, so I'm doing a daily food vlog, if you will. I'm probably gonna keep doing it too. Kind of like it. Okay, so I'll see you in the next one.